It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I am your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And super producer,
Riley Bray.
Oh, gosh, guys. Guess what? Before we start the show, I want to have a new segment called Corrections Club.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
I don't know why this is bothering me, but I think it's because we all live in a microcosm now. But last week during Patreon shoutouts, I really stumbled over somebody's name, and that person is Santander Mabasi, and I just want to say sorry I fucked your name up so bad. I went back and looked at the list and realized that I had added like 3 extra syllables because of a typo, and I just felt bad. I think he deserves a proper shout-out and a thank you for being a new patron, so thank you, Santander. All right, that's it. That's it for Corrections Club, unless, Bryce, do you have any mistakes you want to admit?
There's too many to do on this one podcast, bro.
Fair enough.
Great new segment.
Okay, guys, we got that out of the way. I want to bring in today's guest because she is one of my favorite people that I barely know. She is an actor who's appeared in such programs as Comedy Bang Bang and as a voice on The Regular Show. She's also the co-host of the brand new podcast, Stay F Homekins, which is all about chilling at home during quarantine time with her husband, Paul F. Tompkins. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Janie Haddad Tompkins.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Janie, how are you?
I'm well. I can't believe you. That was such a nice introduction. I feel like I should be on your podcast every day just for mental health.
Sure.
Well, we'd love it if you joined us every time. And also, I'm trying to nail that intro because I want to avoid a future Corrections Club.
I also really appreciated the way that you pronounced my name, which is how I pronounce my name. And, that should not go unnoticed.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, I think I learned it from you. So what do people say? How do people say it incorrectly?
They like to say Janie Haddad Tompkins. And I say Janie Haddad Tompkins, just the way that you say it, because I was born here in America. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
You must feel very privileged.
You.
I feel so privileged. And, the way things are going now, just like, total bragging rights around the
we've
world.
all hit the jackpot.
Exactly. Like our healthcare is, for everybody and all that. So
I feel a new segment called Apology Club coming up for our listeners.
Too many
next
segments.
Week's episode.
Anyway, so I just like to say it real hick like that, and I'm glad that you did too.
Where's the name? Where does Haddad come from? What lineage is that? The proper? I don't know.
I'm Lebanese. It's an Arabic name. It means very very excitingly Smith.
Oh,
and it's an incredibly common Arabic name.
I mean, I guess they have blacksmiths too. That makes sense.
In other places.
And other cultures and other places.
Yes.
You learn something every day.
Yeah. So, that's just the Americanization version. That's enough. I mean, guys, I'm sorry I'm already boring your podcast.
No, I have a big smile on my face. All right, we want to get into everything about Janie, but before we do that, Bryce, you brought in a little show and tell today for us, didn't you?
Yeah, I sent you guys some email photos of a UFO I captured on April 30th. It's really exciting stuff.
All right, listeners, go to the Instagram right now, scroll over, and you will see those photos at Bigfoot Collectors Club on Instagram. So what are we looking at here, Bryce? Tell us the story.
All right, so this was really crazy, right? So I was freshening up my backyard, and I pulled out the old hammock once again, and my wife and daughter are out there. My wife's laying in it, and I got this feeling as she was laying in it. I was like, oh my God, it's like the perfect night to spot a UFO. I should be laying on the hammock. I remember that was my thought. And then like literally 2-3 minutes later, I look up in the sky, as I often do, and I see this like strange black dot. And it's just sort of like, it's just sort of lounging in the sky. And I'm like, and I'm immediately fixed on it. I'm like, oh my God, what is this thing? And I have my iPhone, and I'm like, all right, well, let me take a picture with my iPhone, which is the picture you guys saw. Mm-hmm. And and then I was like, oh my God, I want to go get my long photo, my good camera with the long photo lens. I want to take a picture of it. But I had the feeling, I was like, if I run inside the house and grab my camera, it's going to be gone, because this has happened before. And I was like, and I wanted to tell like my daughter and my wife to like, hey guys, keep your eye on this UFO while I go get my camera. But I knew they would laugh at me, which they did later on anyway. And so I should have just asked them. And so I rush in and I go grab my camera. Actually, I had to ask my wife. I was like, Dawn, where's my camera again? She's like, where it always is. Why? Do you see a UFO or something? And I was like, yes, I'll be right back. And I go get it and I come back out and it's fucking gone. And I was so mad. I was like, dang, I should have had like Charlie, my daughter, at least keep an eye on it, because it wasn't moving. It was just sort of hanging in the sky. And then I was really disappointed.
Just for a little background, Bryce's backyard is a source of much mystery and danger. As listeners of our show know, he's had a life-threatening accident back there that debilitated him for months. He once befriended a family of squirrels that he telepathically communicated with, as listeners of the other side, or Patreon page know.
What's wrong with that?
I am not criticizing. I'm saying that Bryce's backyard is a pocket dimension all on its own. So
it sounds like the Bryce Muta triangle to me.
Yeah.
New term.
It really is.
Bryce Muta triangle. So, Bryce, what was this object doing? And why do you think it's a UFO and not a balloon?
Well, I think it's a UFO because I got that feeling to look up in the sky, like this sort of internal messaging, like, look up, now's the good time to spot a UFO. And when you zoom in, Michael, which you did as soon as I sent it to you, because I was so disappointed, I was like, damn, it's gone. And Charlie and Don were laughing at me, as they should, but I was like, I got to text Michael, he'll appreciate this. And then Michael sent it back, zoomed in, and it looks like a tetrahedron, which is a very common shape in sort of esoteric and UFO culture. It's it's the shape of something they call like a Merkaba or a light vehicle. But I was like very intrigued by the closer up image.
It is kind of a strange shape when you zoom in.
Yeah. So you guys are obviously convinced now that you've seen the photo as well. So
100%.
100%.
It's blurry. Checks out.
I have a question. Was there any accompanying noise?
No, it was just completely silent. Yeah. And I've photographed, so I've seen balloons. I'm often looking up at the sky. So I've seen balloons as well, and I'll photograph them and I'll zoom in on those with my long lens. And those are pretty easy to make out as balloons, which is really why I wanted to get this on my long lens, because balloons usually sort of sift through the air. They sort of like move lazily through the air. This one was just completely stationary, like a black dot in the sky. And I've seen those like white dots and black dots in the sky too, that sort of lob around. And anyway, I don't know. I think
Bryce, now I want you to create like a relaxation podcast called Bryce's Balloons, and you just describe all the different balloons you've seen and how they float through the air. I mean, the one thing also, like, during quarantine, who's got balloons? Why would there be balloons anyway? Like, who honestly is blowing up and holding a balloon to let go of?
Well, the craziest thing was that inner sense to like, oh my God, it would be the perfect time to spot a UFO laying in that hammock. It was like a loud and clear message I got in my head. And then literally 2 minutes later, I look up and I see that.
Big things are happening for us here.
I feel like that's the strongest evidence, is that you had that like intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's a kind of common thing too. When people spot these UFOs, there's sort of sometimes a transmission of messaging taking place. Oh God, I sound crazy.
Keep going. The only way out is through, Bryce.
I swear to God, though, you guys are onto something about my backyard. It really is the place of a lot of strange happenings.
Well, thank you for sharing those photos. I think it's pretty exciting. I'm on your side on this one. It's not like the thing we saw at Contact in the Desert, which I think was definitely a balloon. This was a balloon. Yeah. This has a little bit more of a strange craft shape to it. So I say keep your eyes on the sky, Bryce.
Yeah. Now that you broke out that hammock too, just a little night stargazing. It sounds in order.
Done.
Janie.
Yes.
We like to ask all of our guests, what is your personal paranormal history? Where did you grow up? What were you into as a kid? What scares you? What captures your imagination? What do you believe in? And also, have you ever experienced something that you cannot explain?
Wow. Okay. So I was born in West Virginia, but I grew up in South Carolina, in Charleston, on a little barrier island that you like to call 80s Island. And
yes.
Yeah. And
Janie grew up on an awesome island that when I've heard stories about it, it just sounds like for a kid who grew up in Kansas where there wasn't a lot of water around, it sounded like a wonderful place to live in the 80s. So I always refer to it as 80s Island.
Oh, no way.
Yes. But so in Charleston is a very historical city. So I would say like the belief in ghosts in the past and kind of like that kind of vibe felt acceptable there. Because it's all historically preserved. Like if you were to be in downtown Charleston, like there are certain streets that look like it could be like the 1800s, But I had sort of like I used to think that I used to believe in ghosts also because I was raised Catholic. So I went to Catholic school for many years. And
the Holy Ghost, the most popular ghost of all.
Yeah. They basically tell you that like there are ghosts and that like that's part of religion, and that also like you're going to be possessed by like the devil, like in The Exorcist, even if you're a good person and just a child. If you're just like a young female child, good person, like a devil can take host of your body.
The devil likes the most innocent victims of all.
Yeah, that's why it's important to attend Sunday school youth group, How to Avoid Possession. Those are key groups you don't want to miss out on.
You can't sleep in on that one. That is that's like, so like I definitely grew up like frightened all the time of like the supernatural. And, like we'd play with like Ouija boards and stuff. And I don't know. I think I was just like an easy target. I was the youngest, and I don't know. Like I just was kind of like gullible about it. And but now as a grown adult, I don't believe so much in ghosts and the supernatural. However, I do believe there is life on other planets.
Yeah.
Because like no one has proven me otherwise, and why wouldn't there be? Like to think that there is not life on other planets feels narcissistic.
It absolutely does. Yeah. I mean, it's a mathematical certainty almost at this point.
And I don't know what that means or anything, but I do feel like I saw a flying object alone one night, and it was unexplainable at the time. I was driving to 80s Island. I was in my 1980 Honda Civic that my brother left me when he went to college. And I was driving over the drawbridge. It was dark at night. There were no other cars on the road. It was like a weeknight, like a school night. And the particular drawbridge that goes to 80s Island is not very high. I mean, it's high enough for boats to clear under it, but it's a small bridge. It's not like a huge like expansion bridge or something. And as I was driving over the bridge, there was a flying object to my left that felt like it was almost following me.
Huh.
And it had lights on the side, like white lights on the side. And it just was too felt like the altitude was too low for it to be like something, legit.
Like a conventional aircraft. Yeah.
Was it making any noise or?
Well, I had the windows up and like the radio or my,
Depeche Mode was playing.
Depeche Mode was blasting. Of course. It's 80s Island. We get it.
Yes. But I felt like a chill because it wasn't like I spotted something. It was almost like we spotted one another. Like I felt spotted.
Yes. Dude, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
So I tried to kind of follow it because like the hair on my arms raised, like it wasn't like, oh, that's a strange thing. I wonder if that's a weird weather balloon. And this is like pre-drones. I don't know, but it was like a small craft, like it was like in between the size of like a helicopter and like a large drone. It was like a medium size.
What did you say is about the size of a car?
Yes. Like wow. It's about the size of like I don't know. Is that like a weather balloon? And can they follow you?
I'm not leading you down any. I'm just trying to get a good guesstimate of the size of this thing. What was the shape of it? Can you recall?
It felt like it kind of looked like the shape of the blurry picture that Bryce just sent. Like a
yes.
or like it didn't have like it felt like like
a blob almost.
Like a blob.
Not
like
a traditional flying saucer.
No,
with like a dome on top of it.
No, not like that. And it didn't have it wasn't like a helicopter that has like a tail or anything like that. And it didn't have wings or anything. It was just like a floating kind of vessel.
That's so
and
very
it felt
strange.
floaty. It felt floaty. Like it didn't feel like it was like powering through the air. Like it felt floaty.
That is
anyway, it was like one of those moments where it was like no one is going to understand this brief experience that I had or believe it. No one else is around. It's dark. I'm alone. I couldn't really follow it because it went off into like oblivion. Like I followed it somewhat, and then it went past where I could drive,
You made it sound like the UFO is having an existential crisis.
Maybe
20 years later, I would understand, Janie. You got to come to my backyard.
I mean, I can't imagine your property values. I mean, they must be like amazing. Like you've got like a lot going on to offer there.
It's so strange though. All kidding aside, it sounds like you definitely might have seen something anomalous. That's very, what I'm intrigued by is sort of that strange and what we just talked about, that sort of transmission of messaging where it's like, you get the feeling that this thing is observing you, there's like an interrelation. There's a play at hand. It's very strange.
Yeah, it feels like there's like an interaction taking place.
Yeah, that's wild.
I don't know if that's something that you can just project because you want to believe, or your mind goes a certain place because you can't explain.
Perhaps.
Well, there's a big theory, and this has been a recurring topic on the show lately, where there's a theory that the UFOs, that this stuff that we're dealing with, is actually not necessarily some nuts and bolt craft that comes from another planet, but it's part of a larger strange phenomenon that is dependent upon the user's consciousness, and that there seems to be, whatever this phenomenon is engaged with whoever is witnessing it, as almost they're forming some sort of symbiotic bond to create the event, and sometimes that feels like, if that makes sense, but sometimes that sounds like, to me, sometimes I struggle with that, because that theory is sort of a backdoor for anyone to get out of an explanation or a rational explanation of anything. It's sort of a justification of things are just weird, but it might just be that things are just weird, and that whatever this thing is really is about you and it bonding and forming this encounter for what purpose, we don't know.
And here's a big misconception, and it's a great segue into a couple tweets made by Neil deGrasse Tyson. But a lot of people think that.
How mad are you at Neil deGrasse Tyson?
I'm not
you
mad.
Tweeted something like I feel like you tweeted at him, "Stay in your lane, bruh." Like no. I feel like you. I read you being very mad at him.
I wasn't mad. Listen, I get it, right? He's caught in a paradigm. He's in a box.
Explain to Janie and our listeners what we're talking about for those who missed it.
I have to know what he did.
Well, sure. So there's this big misconception that just because you see something strange in the sky that it means it's an alien from planet Zeta Reticuli, right? Not the case. Absolutely not the case. Just because you see an unidentified, it's right there in the title, flying object, doesn't mean it's an alien from another planet. So I think over the weekend, a couple days ago, Neil deGrasse Tyson decided to sort of troll the entire paranormal community with a couple different tweets, one directed at UFOs and one directed at Bigfoot. The first one he put about UFOs.
He's coming for you, Bryce.
He's coming for me, man. He tweeted, "Billions and billions of full-color, high-resolution images and videos are uploaded to the internet every day. If your best evidence for aliens visiting from another galaxy is monochromatic, low-resolution, fuzzy video taken by the U.S. Navy, then there's more work to be done here." And he's referring to the famous Tic Tac UFO video released by the Pentagon, and who just confirmed that it was an unidentified, which is big in the UFO news. And then he also tweeted about Bigfoot. "More photos are taken each day and posted to the internet than were taken during the first 100 years of photography. And the best image of Bigfoot is from 50 years ago, or fuzzy in the brush." And he has a picture of the famous Gimlin footage. But it's like, man, and that's why I get sort of perturbed at not the scientific community in general, but reductionists, materialists who just sort of love to I can promise you Neil deGrasse Tyson has never read a book on UFOs or has never talked to an eyewitness who's seen Bigfoot. They just love to keep their whole ideology in a box and not look at the data. And when you're a scientist, that's exactly your job, is to look at the data. And there is so much data to be looked at in the UFO culture that, for him to make those statements, it's a little annoying,
I like your dramatic reading of his tweets.
Thank you. Good.
I like the sort of negative annoyance that I feel from your reading of him, because it is super negative.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's like he's denying these fighter pilots who are operating multi-billion-dollar nuclear-capable high-flying machines. He's denying them and those radar operators what they're actually perceiving with their own eyes and their, high-valued electrical instruments. He's basically calling thousands of people just liars, or
it's enough to disagree with something. You don't have to then imply in the way that you're negating something that the people are stupid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't you just say there are some things that are unexplainable. This is intriguing. I don't believe in UFOs. It's probably a blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's not the role of the new materialist scientific in the 21st century. The role of the scientist is to say, we have everything understood. There's nothing left. There is nothing left for us.
True.
Well, no. I mean, you have.
I know. I think I agree with you. I think there is a sense of a sense of arrogance that Twitter has imbued in in
Yeah, it's
Twitter is definitely full of arrogance. That I can agree with 100%.
But no, Riley, you have to admit, even the scientists like that, they say, well, we just have a few things left to lock up, and then other than that, the universe has been explained and all
understood. Yeah,
wrong, absolutely wrong. We still don't know what consciousness is. We don't know what the mind is. We don't know what dreams are. It's wrong.
But I think most astrophysicists would agree with you there. And we don't know what dark matter is, which is the vast majority of the universe. So I think we're still agreeing that we don't know.
And you know what makes me think someone is smart is when they admit that there are things that no one knows.
Amen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When people are no, you're wrong because I know. And here's why. Oh. It's come on.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just dumb. Okay,
yeah, you're just you're obstinate, and I don't want to engage with you.
Yeah.
Well, he did say more. He said more work needs to be done, right? I mean,
but
maybe it was a little snarky.
You know what?
More
work needs to be done on his part, because although that's a low chromatic video, there's actually high res video that was taken by David Fravor, that U.S. Navy pilot, that has not been released by the government. So while we're looking at the low res imaging, the one that was released, there is alternate videos that have not been released that are high res. So he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Let's be honest. This is coming from a man who enjoys ruining Star Wars for children. Like, he just, I think he is just kind of playing up his role as a troll. I do really think
so.
I do a little bit. I think he must glean a little bit of joy by just starting little fires and watching people get. Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
I mean, I think Bryce,
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think you're right. I mean, I think the problem is that we're really talking about is that that this field carries with it so much stigma that it is difficult for actual scientists who are exploring the world in a very rational way based on information and data and provable hypothesis, whatever. I am clearly not a scientist, okay? But I think that there's just a history of people getting shunned from the scientific community for even going down this avenue.
Absolutely. It's a taboo, and it shouldn't be. And
it sucks that he can't. It sucks that more scientists can't go. It's fascinating. They don't have to say these are aliens, like you said. I think that's a very important point. But I think it would be fun if somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson would say, isn't it weird that we don't know what this is? What, you know what I mean? Just opening, because I think you do more good by opening up the minds of imaginations. You're probably going to get more kids into science if you can use something like the Tic Tac UFO video as a gateway into exploring the universe.
Absolutely.
Well, it's a much more appealing way to be and look at the world, to have infinite curiosity as opposed to just knowing everything.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. There's an important part of life's vibrancy that comes from having a little bit of mystery in your life. And when we try to explain away everything, then it just becomes mundane and low resolution, for lack of a better word.
And I imagine to his credit, he must be constantly frustrated with the amount of misinformation and misunderstood concepts that are out there about the nature of the universe as well. Because look, we got to admit there's a lot of bullshit out there when it comes to UFOs and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I remember it's like when I worked on a TV show about paramedics, and it was so funny because on the chat boards after each episode, there would just be all these EMTs that would complain about all the shit we were getting wrong about, about that life, right, and about being emergency responders. And so I think with all this science fiction, there's just got to be stuff that's constantly taking him out of the moment, and he's probably just venting that frustration, But
even that said, I remember when X-Files was on, I was a huge fan, and I'd watch it every Sunday with a group of friends and stuff. Where's the fun? Where's the sense of fun? Yeah, maybe there are fun science fiction stuff surrounding it, but there's still unexplainable events that, I don't know. It's just grumpy.
It reminded me a lot of famed astrophysicist and scientist Carl Sagan. In the latter years of his life, sort of took on this same role that Neil deGrasse Tyson has seemed to take on, as provocateur and naysayer to anything strange and mysterious. When in the earlier part of Carl Sagan's life, he was very interested in the idea of visitation from other planets and alien entities. In fact, he was involved in what was that golden disc that we sent up, and I forget, but anyway,
the golden record, yeah, the
golden record. He was very interested
on Voyager 2.
Yes, he was very interested in making communications and first contact and stuff like that. But later in his life, he really sort of turned his head from all that and just kept to sort of like,
I think one of the really interesting things about the Golden Record too is that he said that it was as much about trying to communicate with an extraterrestrial as it was to communicate to the people on Earth how you would think about communicating to an extraterrestrial. So it was more about putting that idea into people's heads than because he understood that it's, space is huge and it's probably not going to get seen, but it's that idea, getting that idea in everyone else's head of, oh, we're putting something out there. How could we communicate with these beings? So it's like we've been talking about, where he's trying to, it's that sense of wonder, that sense of excitement, that sense of imagination that he's stoking there.
Keeping
and
that
also
exploration
like
alive.
I feel like one argument for life on another planet is that if we on Earth found any proof of life somewhere else, we would be like all over raping that planet, like taking beings
Strong
that we found.
Word choice.
Planet rape.
I just like the way that we are here, like how humans are. Like we would take whatever living things and bring them back and poke and prod, and it would be like ET.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, that might be happening, and today's story of High Strangeness might be about that. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more fun and not boring stuff with Janie Haddad Tompkins. Fuck you, science. Here we go again. Janie, I want to go back to something that you said earlier in the show. I'm curious how you went from being terrified that the devil was going to possess you to not believing in ghosts or the supernatural or paranormal. When did that switch happen for you?
Well, that is all very connected to sort of my personal religious beliefs, the evolution of my own personal religious beliefs, because even though I went to Catholic school for many, many years, neither one of my parents were particularly religious at all. So all of the information that I was learning and believing came solely from school and church and like youth group. So it was almost
between all three of those, it sounds like you were in pretty deep.
I was all in because it just seemed like that was just the culture of of my school. And I had all these adults, telling me, and like nuns and priests and stuff telling me things. And it was almost like an indoctrination of sorts. And then as I got older and became like a tween and teen, and I would come home and kind of spout certain things that I'd learned to my mom and my stepdad, and they would sort of challenge those beliefs, like, like I'd come home and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, did you know, like, if you're a woman and you get an abortion, like, you're going to hell because you murdered like a human being person. And they would be like, well, it's not so simple, and some people believe this, and that's not necessary, like all this stuff. And I'd be like, what, And then as I became older, like I was exposed to more people that sort of came up in different religious environments, like had like Jewish friends or whatever, And so I started to really understand that like the literalness of religion isn't so literal, And then when I went to college, like I took this course called Faith versus Reason, and it kind of blew my mind. And anyway, just like I had like a gradual coming of age acceptance that everything I had been told might not be so literal. Yeah.
Yeah, you dropped out just briefly there for a second. You did what in college? You took what in college? A class, I assume?
Oh,
maybe a hit on a bong?
This course. Oh, yeah. It might be about. Okay. I took this when I was a freshman or sophomore in college. I took this course called Faith versus Reason, and it blew my mind. And it was just like a fun elective class. And can you guys still hear me? I hope.
Yeah. We're listening.
Okay. My computer went to sleep for just a brief moment, and I was like, oh, no. I just took this course, and like it just began like like I was educated liberal arts, and so I started on this like critical thinking journey.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, I think that's so important to like, get your paradigm question. And it's so important for what you just said, for the ability to critically think. I experienced a lot of that myself. Like I went to a Lutheran school, and then my dad was a complete atheist. So he would sort of deconstruct everything I was learning in that school, which was pretty funny. But it also makes me laugh at what you were saying earlier. It's funny how, I'm a parent with 2 kids who go to a private school, because our public school system in my area is pretty crappy. But it's funny how we like bargain with them, and like, yeah, it's a better school, but they're gonna kind of indoctrinate them a little bit, but we can deal with that later. It's a strange bargain.
Like the same thing that my parents must have gone through, because I was not allowed to go to public school even though I begged.
Yeah.
It's my understanding too that the literalism that's come, that's like pretty dominant in religion right now, like it's in the Bible. If it's in the Bible, it's the truth. Was really kind of came about more recently in our history. Like it was around the turn of the century when science and the Industrial Revolution were just starting to suddenly explain so many things that were left up to sort of religious questions that the religion took this sort of started to take a really hard line approach to everything, because in sort of an act of self-preservation. And now here we are,
Yeah, they dug in their heels pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So that really did inform sort of my like, our ghost reel, or, because I actually had an experience where I thought I saw a ghost.
Ooh, well, let's hear that.
I was 18 and I was dating this guy. We had this very intense like senior year relationship. I was like 17, I guess. And we had gone to Columbia, which is like 2 hours away, to see a concert. So we were spending the night in this Marriott or something.
Do you remember the concert?
It might have been Jackson Browne.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we were in the hotel bar, and in the hotel bar was this woman. She was sitting at the bar, and she kind of looked like, like she had been like rode hard and put away wet a little bit, like she was like, she had like kind of like she was drinking her drink alone, but for some reason she was staring at me, like fascinated by me, and it was unsettling. And of course we're like underage and like trying to order, beer at this bar or what, you know what I mean? So I'm like self-conscious all over the place anyway. So we go to our room, which is very spicy because we're like high school seniors. And
so far, every element of this story would have terrified me as a high schooler. The underage drinking, possible ghosts, intimacy, all these things are a horror story for me at that age.
I acted like a 40-year-old when I was 16. Like I was like, I do everything by myself. Like it was just like, yeah, whatever. So for some reason we were having like an emotional night. I don't know what, like probably having an argument or something, and we go to sleep, and then in the middle of the night, from a dead sleep, I'm like lying on my stomach and my face is facing out like toward the window. I can tell where I am and everything in the room. I wake up and I see a woman standing next to my head.
Oh my God.
In the room. And then I became like awakened, like from a deep sleep. And now I can say like, maybe it was a night terror or what, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I literally was like, oh my God. And like, I woke JD up and I was like, oh my God, I just saw the woman. And it was the woman in the bar, but she was different, but I knew it was her somehow. And like I just felt like penetrated by this creepy presence of this woman. And I was so shaken and unsettled, like he could not calm me down, that I made us drive home at 4 in the morning.
Oh my God.
Like I could not
be
in that room anymore. I couldn't be in the room anymore.
So when you look back on that now, what do you think?
I think a night terror, because I have since met people who have talked about being the victim of night terrors as a sleep disorder, and when they describe sort of what they experienced.
Oh no! Did you guys experience that dropout just now, or was that just me?
No, we were hearing
I didn't.
all good.
Can you just start from I had since, just so I make sure I got that on the redundant recording, because I think we're having an issue.
Oh, yeah. I have since, the reason I don't believe in maybe that being a paranormal experience as much anymore is because in the meantime, I have met and encountered people who actually do suffer from night terrors as a sleep disorder. And when they describe their experience of night terrors, it feels almost like a supernatural experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so in
for
my
sure.
mind,
I
look back on that and I was like, oh, maybe, but this is not something I experience regularly or had experienced prior to that.
You know what I'm thinking, Bryce?
What?
Psychic vampire.
Definitely psychic.
The woman in the bar was psychically attacking you in your sleep. She was
no
latching
doubt about
onto you.
it. Yeah, the old
Really?
the old haggis at the bar for sure.
Yeah,
she was vampire. Like there was definitely like I was being targeted by her. Like I knew it because I was sitting there and she was staring at me. And then in my mind, I'm like, well, we're trying to order out, we're too young to be in this hotel bar that's in the center of the lobby,
She's feeding on the emotional night that you described. Janie, I'm telling you, get your brain examined for fang marks.
I don't know about psychic vampires, but now I'm going to go on a Google deep dive because maybe that was something. There's something to that.
I mean, it does sound.
I hope I don't get a call from your husband saying that you've gone AWOL.
I mean, you've never had a night terror since or before, right?
Yeah.
That was sort of a one-off incident.
No.
And it just leaving a motel when you're that young, when it's so hard to get a motel is like, that's extreme. So it obviously had a traumatic experience on you, one so much so that made you get your boyfriend up and be like, we've got to go now. So I don't know. Yeah. That's pretty strange.
And I don't think I'm like a drama queen normally. I mean, I might have been at 16 or 17 just because, I was a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah.
But why would I want to drive home in the middle of the night? I mean, that's like tiresome.
Did he try to calm you down?
And it's just a total bummer.
Babe, come on,
Right?
just relax. Just come on. I want to sleep in. Did he try to convince you to stay?
I don't remember the details, but in my memory, I think he got spooked just as much as I did because of how authentically upset I was. Like it was, you know what I'm saying? Like right. I think it freaked him out just as much.
Wow.
I think he wanted to stay in the hotel because who wants to drive back? But on the other hand, when we tried to get back in bed and go to sleep with the lights on, it was like, this isn't going to happen. Like I can tell, I have to get out of this room. Something's wrong here.
Cockblock by a psychic vampire.
Yeah, there you go. There's the title of this show.
You guys, you don't have to say you have a headache. You can pretend that somebody targeted you in a public space and then appeared in the middle of the night.
I think this is a good time to play a game that we love to play with all of our guests. Janie, I'm going to go down a rapid fire list of phenomenon. And if you're open to it, you're going to say believe it. If you're not open to it, you're going to say bullshit. This is a game that we like to call bullshit
or believe it.
All right, Janie Haddad Tompkins, on your mark.
Okay.
Get set. Ghosts.
Bullshit.
UFOs.
Believe it.
Bigfoot.
Bullshit.
Little gray aliens.
Believe it.
Out-of-body experiences.
Believe it.
Demonic possession.
Bullshit.
You've overcome your trials. The Bermuda Triangle.
Believe it.
The Bryce-Muda Triangle.
Oh, definitely believe it. There's proof in my inbox.
Alien abductions.
Believe it.
Loch Ness Monster.
Bullshit.
Time travel.
Bullshit.
Mothman.
Believe it.
Reincarnation.
Bullshit.
ESP.
Believe it.
Haunted houses.
Believe it.
The Illuminati.
I'm not sure what that is. I'm just going to call bullshit.
There's a face on Mars.
Oh, bullshit.
Skunk ape.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds like bullshit. It sounds like bullshit.
You've just unlocked a secret game. We'll get to that in a moment.
Trigger the game.
Get ready, Bryce.
All right.
Heaven.
Bullshit.
Hell.
Believe it.
Sea serpents.
Believe it.
Poltergeists.
Bullshit.
Chupacabra.
Bullshit.
Atlantis.
Believe it.
Life on other planets.
Believe it.
Parallel dimensions.
Bullshit.
The apocalypse.
We're living it.
Life after death.
Bullshit.
Okay, Janie, you played bullshit or believe it. You kind of came out pretty even on that one.
I know. I'm all over the map because I believe in haunted houses, but not ghosts. But I think that's an energy thing.
My favorite one was demonic possession. Like you didn't want to like upset any entities. You're like, what?
Or nuns.
right.
But then I know the nuns could come after me. But like sometimes I'm like kind of like, well, I feel like demonic possession is like some kind of like metaphor for like personality disorders, and they didn't have the language, so which I believe now. So I don't know.
All right, Janie, as I said, you unlocked a secret game with your answer about skunk ape. Bryce, I hope you are already emailing pictures to Janie because this is a game called 60 Seconds to Sell Skunk Ape.
Do I have to look in my inbox? Yeah.
Maybe. It's all dependent on Bryce. So Bryce has 60 seconds. I'm going to start the timer to convince you that skunk ape is real. Bryce, are you ready?
I guess so. I'll do my best. I mean, this is going to be tough.
The first time we
believe in Bigfoot either. So
quarantine. Here we go.
Okay,
on your mark, get set. Skunk ape.
Okay, so skunk ape. If you have a search bar, just Google skunk ape and then hit images. You're going to find two photos. Now, here's the story. In Florida, I believe near around Sarasota, an old lady. She had a nice backyard who her grandkids used to visit, and she saw this creature's taking her apples. So one night she goes out with a camera. It was completely dark, and she said she took 2 shots, and the flash went off, and that's the 2 pictures that you'll see in your Google bar. And
30 seconds left.
Skunk ape. It's really like the southern Bigfoot, and people report seeing them in the swamps and in all different kinds of places down in the South. And anyway, she said in her letter, which she signed anonymous to the sheriff's department, she said on the second picture, it started to lean up. It started to stand up. And you can actually see in the 2 different photos
10 seconds.
A different body posture. And you can see the fangs and the reflection in the eyes.
4,
it's definitely a
3,
real creature. You
2,
should believe in skunk ape.
1. The end. Okay, Janie, do you believe in skunk ape?
Yes.
Great job, Bryce. You sold skunk ape in 60 seconds. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But
okay.
I just assume it's like a real animal of sorts.
Fantastic. That is an explanation for skunk ape that we accept.
The first sentence in her letter was, "Is somebody missing an orangutan?" But there are no orangutans in Florida.
It's a very strange looking orangutan. It's like more like a genetically deformed something.
Well, if the Tiger King taught us anything, it's that people have a lot of animals they should not own. We're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time for this week's story of High Strangeness with Janie Haddad Tompkins. All right, it's time for this week's story of High Strangeness, and it's my turn this episode. And I'll tell you what, I knew that Janie was into UFOs, so I picked a UFO-based story, but I honestly could not have predicted, much like the subject of today's story, just how on topic and how this story is based on everything that we've been talking about today.
Great.
So And Bryce, I am very interested to find out if you have ever heard about this story, because I had not. I went about a search to find a UFO story that I hadn't heard about, and sometimes the best places to look are from other countries. And this is the story of the alien of Ilkley Moor. On the foggy morning of December 1st, 1987, a retired policeman from Yorkshire, UK, Philip Spencer, grabbed his camera on the way out the door to visit his father-in-law. Spencer's path would lead him across the fabled Ilkley Moor, an area of Yorkshire well known for spooky activity. The moor is home to numerous stone carvings dating back as far as the Neolithic age, bearing names like the Badger Stone, the Neb Stone, St. Margaret's Stones, and the swastika stone, as well as a small stone circle referred to as the 12 Apostles. Yeah, the swastika stone is this old Neolithic carving, and it's going way, way back to when the swastika didn't mean what it means today. Right. It's more of a spiral formation. It's very cool looking, and I suggest that anyone listening to the story, if you have a computer handy, to look up Ilkley Moor and some of these photos of these stone structures and stone carvings are pretty cool.
That stone needs a PR rebrand.
Yeah, definitely. Ilkley Moor was also well known for its mystery lights, strange lights that danced about in the fog at night and during the wee hours of the morning. Perhaps they were somehow related to activity at two nearby aviation facilities, Menwith Hill Military Base and Leeds Bradford Airport. But the Moor's reputation for being the place where strange things happen was undeniable. A saying that surfaced multiple times while researching this topic online goes, "The Ilkley Moor can scare you to death during daylight, and at night it's even worse." So on that December morning, Spencer loaded highly rated ASA film into his camera, which would compensate for the low light of the moor, hoping to capture a few images of these strange lights, which had recently been active in his area. He never could have predicted what he'd actually end up capturing, or being captured himself. The majority of what I'm about to tell you comes from an article off UFOcasebook.com by BJ Booth titled The Ilkley Moor Alien, which I'll include a link to in our show notes. Spencer made his way across the misty moorlands, carrying with him a compass to help him navigate his way through the terrain, and he noticed something moving up ahead of him on a slope. He would later go on to describe it as a blue-green creature, about 3 to 4 feet high, with large pointed ears and dark eyes. Wow. The entity had no nose and only a slit for a mouth, calling to mind the similar descriptions of the famous alien greys. Spencer watched the creature shuffle along the moor on funny, V-shaped feet, as if both feet were composed of 2 large toes. Makes me think of the Ninja Turtles. It had skinny arms and 3 sausage-like fingers on both hands, which Spencer claimed were large, much bigger than his own. The creature turned to Spencer. The former police officer swiftly lifted his camera to his eye and snapped a photo. The entity waved at him as if to say, "Don't come, go back." And then it began to run, and Spencer instinctively gave chase. Spencer said that he followed the creature momentarily until it disappeared from view around a corner. And then moments later, a large silver craft with a whitish dome rose from the moor. Atop the dome was what he described as a white square. And that'll come into play in a moment. Philip gawked as the craft took off and vanished into the sky. Spencer decided to walk to the nearest village to gather his wits. During his 30-minute walk north, he noticed that his compass was now pointing south. Something had caused the compass to reverse polarity. When he arrived at the village, the town clock said it was 10 a.m., an hour ahead of Spencer's own watch.
Oh, no.
He took the film from his camera to a one-hour photo kiosk, or the British equivalent, and after waiting a while, probably an hour, there it was. The picture featuring the alien had developed. Now, this is the part where I want everybody listening to go to Instagram, Bigfoot Collectors Club, add Bigfoot Collectors Club, and scroll through these photos. And guys, you have them in your inbox right now.
Yeah.
So,
Can we look now?
Yeah, take a look now. So the photo is the faded color image that there's a circle that is showing the creature in question, and then I have added a red arrow pointing to an object in the sky. Okay. So if you take a look at this, you can see the slope and the pathway, and very clearly, now whether it's a real entity or not, there is a bipedal being leaning against what looks to be some sort of rock. Wow. And there's a second photo in there that is sort of doctored so it will make the image of the alien more apparent.
Yeah.
So you see this. It looks, it looks like what you picture an alien looking. It's very E.T., very alien gray looking. I was shocked that I had never come across this story before.
This is wild.
Really weird stuff. And then if you look into the sky, there is, again, kind of like Bryce's photo. If you zoom in, there's clearly some type of object hovering over the horizon that some people claim is a white square that looks similar to what Philip Spencer described being on top of the dome of the craft. So is it possible, and he didn't notice this until much later, is it possible that he not only captured an image of an alien, but of the craft itself?
Yes. Dude, I was going to say, this white dot looks almost exactly like the type of white dots I would see in the sky.
I know.
I'm not even
it's
kidding.
All lining up, dude. It's very strange.
Huh.
So Spencer knew he had something special. So he contacted ufologist Peter Howe, who took Spencer's insane story with a healthy dose of salt. Howe had the photograph analyzed by a number of experts. First, by a wildlife photography expert who determined that the creature in the photo was not an animal of any known kind, and it could not be determined if the figure was moving or if it was static. The Spencer photo was then sent to Kodak Laboratories in Hemel Hempstead, which you might remember from the Solway Firth Spaceman.
Yeah.
There, it was determined that the entity, or whatever they were looking at, was in the original photo and not superimposed. So whatever it was in the negative. Finally, the photo ended up in the hands of Dr. Bruce Maccabee, optical physicist with the United States Navy. And he took it and examined it under computer analysis, and he stated that the slow film speed used for the low light conditions made the film too grainy for proper testing. I had great hopes that this case would prove definitive. Sadly, circumstances prevent it from being so, Maccabee stated.
Bruce Maccabee.
Bruce Maccabee.
Yeah, I liked your gruffness, yeah.
Howe struggled with one major inconsistency with the photo. While investigating Spencer's story, Howe went out to Ilkley Moor and to the location where Spencer claimed that he made contact with the strange being. Everything about the location lined up. He was even able to look at the surrounding area and determine that the object in the photo would have been about 4 feet tall when compared to the natural landscape, as Spencer described. But the lighting conditions of Spencer's picture didn't seem to line up with the time of morning when this all supposedly took place. But this wasn't the end of the story. After experiencing a series of strange dreams involving starry skies, and unable to account for the missing hour he experienced, Spencer underwent hypnotic regressive therapy under Dr. Jim Singleton on March 16, 1988. Also present at the session were Howe and Matthew Hill, a journalist friend of Howe, who was there to operate 3 tape recorders. During the session, Spencer described being enveloped by light and taken into the craft, where he was then put on a table and examined by the creatures. He remembered peering out a window and looking at Earth from outer space. He recalled being led down a corridor where 2 flat video screens played ominous images, or films, as Spencer called them. One of an apocalyptic future where Earth's environment was devastated and there was mass starvation. As for the other film, even under hypnosis, Spencer refused to say. He told Dr. Singleton, "I'm not supposed to tell anyone about the other film. It's not for them to know." Spencer has never made a single dollar from the photo. In fact, he donated it to Peter Howe for his collection and for further study. He has no interest of being in the spotlight, which is perhaps why this incredible story and the photo isn't more widely known. Or perhaps the whole thing was some elaborate hoax. But to that I say, to what end? Spencer and Peter Howe remain friends to this day, and Spencer's telling of the story has never wavered in 33 years. And that is the story of the alien of Ilkley Moor.
Incredible.
Wow.
I had never heard of that, nor have I ever seen these pictures, but I'm somewhat blown away, man. It's a really, really a strange and very believable story, in my opinion.
Janie, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Are you there?
I guess. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good. We hear you. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he lost time, which is one of those, consistent things you hear about people experiencing. I don't know. I think he had a very unexplainable encounter.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, part of me sees that this guy could have just been like, I'm going to spin a yarn and build like a alien dummy and set him out there. But I don't know why anyone would really do that and not capitalize on it. This story has the echoes of like stories you hear that like Outlander's based on, where someone enters a fairy circle and loses time. And, there's something very, there's something very much otherworldly about this. This feels like a fairy story, a fairy abduction, even though it has all the classic elements of a UFO abduction. And frankly, they might be one and the same.
Absolutely. I mean, dude, I am reading right now Passport to Magonia by famed ufologist and astrophysicist Jacques Vallée. And so many of these cases, I mean, hit all these notes. Somebody sees a strange entity. The next thing they know, there's some light vehicle lifting off into the sky from some marsh beyond. And then it's just so strange. And what if this creature is real? What if this photograph that he took with his camera and then went and had it developed an hour later, that all sounds really plausible. What if what we're looking at is some real creature? I mean, I'm blown away by the look of this thing. It's all just so weird. And man, that ball in the sky, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that ball. But no,
it's not a balloon.
Yeah.
And to make sure I got the story correct, he didn't remember all of that sequence of seeing Earth from afar until the hit.
Exactly. So he thought, and I may have left this out, and I apologize, but he thought that the story went, he was walking along, he saw an alien through the fog, he saw the UFO, then he went to the town and realized an hour had been missing. But after doing this hypnotic regression and thinking, and these dreams that started coming up, which is another often thing, is that usually these subconscious or suppressed memories start coming up in dreams. That he realized that the encounter with the alien and seeing the craft took place after his abduction. And that accounted for the daylight that was different. He thought he was taking that picture at 9 a.m. when really he was, or 8:30 in the morning when really he was taking it at about 9:30 in the morning, which would account for Howe's going, well, wait a minute. If he took this at 9:30 in the morning, the light is wrong. It seems later in the day in the picture. So they came to the conclusion that he was abducted first, and then he was coming to after the abduction, and the alien was walking back to the ship after dropping him back off.
And then he had the presence of mind to take a quick picture to be like, something weird just happened to me and I need to.
Yeah, and he would also kind of account for why the alien was like, no, don't follow me. Don't follow me. Like, he's already done with him,
Right.
Which is just, it's really creepy, and a really cool story and a really cool photo. So everyone should check that out on our Instagram.
And that guy, he's still there. He's still alive.
Yeah, he's alive. I mean, I think so as of in the past year or two. And because this was only in 1987, and he's still in touch with that ufologist. And, Peter Howe kind of came to the conclusion, like, I don't know definitively what this is. But and he took, he was analyzed by psychiatrists, and everyone believed that he believed the story that he was telling, that he wasn't lying about it. So whatever happened, he believed it actually happened that way.
Right.
And look, there's a photographic evidence there to help back it up.
Yeah, this one's crazy. And dude, that part about the second film is maybe the scariest thing I've ever heard on this show.
Yeah, totally. What was that second film?
It's a lot.
I know. And it recalls to me like the miracles of Fatima, and like the images that the girls supposedly saw, were given to them by the Virgin Mary. And there was like one of them that the Pope knew that no one wanted to get out to the public because it was too intense. Like it's all, although I think in some interpretations that was like all the bad stuff that was happening at the church. But I don't know. This one's wild. It's a very cool story. I love this picture. This is the fun thing about discovering stories from other cultures. You realize kind of doing this show that we're so inundated with our own folklore and our own ufology here in the United States that you just branch out even just across the pond, and there's a wealth of strange stories that pop up.
Hey guys, Neil deGrasse Tyson here. I don't get it. You take a picture of a strange rock, and the next thing you know, you're making headlines. Am I right? Am I right or am I right?
Neil, quit crashing our recording session.
This guy's obviously a liar, and either that or a hallucinator. It's one or the other. Nothing.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, ultimate buzzkill. Well, any final thoughts on this, Janie?
I don't know. I'm just I'm so intrigued by it. I want to know how this has impacted his life.
Probably not for the better, to be honest with you. I mean, a lot of these people, they really, and like Michael was saying, they have nothing to gain, and these are life altering events, and a lot of the times they leave these contactees or these witnesses feeling, I don't know, not for the best,
like they are crazy or something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a club.
And this guy's a retired police officer.
They end up feeling like they're nuts.
He's a retired police officer. The last thing he wants is people thinking that he's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, Janie, thank you so much for being on the show. Like Bigfoot, where can you be found?
Well, I can easily be found on Twitter at Janie Haddad and on Instagram at Lebanese Looker.
Fantastic. And your podcast, again, tell us all about that.
Oh, please check out our podcast, Stay F Homekins. It can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's me and my husband, Paul F. Tompkins, and we try to make sense of just existence in 2020.
Perfect.
A difficult task.
Yeah.
It's a delightful show. I look forward to it every Friday evening now because I feel like I get to hang out with a couple people that I adore, and it's very calm and soothing and relaxing and very funny and very charming. And it's great if you're one to indulge in a cocktail or a glass of wine on a Friday evening. I highly recommend it. Guys, I want to thank all of you.
Mocktail.
Exactly. Oh. Mocktails are
somebody
also...
can have a mocktail. Yeah.
Love it.
I've been doing mocktails lately. I got a great recipe I should share.
Oh, maybe you should put it up on the Instagram.
Maybe I will.
Guys, check us out on Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club and also on Twitter at Bigfoot Pod. Do us a favor, would you? Go to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. We'll read what you write, perhaps right here on the podcast. Like this one, somebody posted one since our last episode. This is from Spirit Walker 13. They write, I can't get enough of this podcast. Literally always makes me laugh, but also super informative. Awesome content, too. I'm just unpacking Spirit Walker 13. Okay, this is actually Neil deGrasse Tyson. So he's not a complete asshole. So we appreciate that. Guys, until next week, I remain Michael McMillan for Bryce Johnson and Riley Bray. Thanks again to Janie Haddad Tompkins. Good night.
And go get regressed.
Yay.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.